So this is one that I've created. Again, I am using Silhouette Studio. However, it will work in any application. As far as the, okay, so as far as the design or the setup, it's pretty much the same, whether you're going to be using Microsoft Word or if you're going to be using Publisher, if you're using Photoshop. The concept is pretty much the same. This is an 8.5 by 11 that I've created. And what I normally would do is start with just a blank screen or a blank slate or blank canvas to begin with. And I'm going to turn it landscape so that when I design it, it's already turned the way I want the placemat to be set up. So I'm going to do it landscape, and it's pretty much just an 8.5 by 11. If you are using Silhouette with your page size and your tools on the right hand side, what you will want to do is just make sure your mat can stay at 12 by 12, or you can use a larger mat, 12 by 24. I'm going to go ahead and just set my mat at a 12 by 12. And then the width of the media, the paper that I'm going to be printing on, is going to be 8.5 by 11. Now, some people do use the larger mats, and they use, I think, the 11 by 17. That's only if you have a wide format printer, you're able to do 11 by 17. But I like the look and feel of the 8.5 by 11, so those work for me as well. So what I normally would do is go ahead and have my blank screen or canvas set up, and then just start adding to the actual page. So if I'm going to do the Ninja Turtle theme, or if you're going to do LOL or Spider-Man, any type of theme that you're going to do, you basically want to just go to Google and try to find images or graphics for that particular theme. It's best if you find PNG images. Those are better quality. And then you basically just go to Google and do a search for whatever those images that you're going to be using. I actually already have some of my images saved, but if you were using Google, it's just pretty much you going into a normal browser of Google and searching for the PNG images for, let's say, LOL or Ninja Turtle. You would just basically type that into your search to locate the images that you want to use, such as the logo or any of the graphics that you know you want to include. I also do that for the activity pages that I add in there, such as the maze, the tic-tac-toe, the coloring pages. All of those are just things that I found in Google and then just brought them into my Silhouette. So for me, when I did the Ninja Turtle, I just pretty much said Ninja Turtle, PNG, and then just searched. And then I did images. And you want to try to find the larger scale images because they're going to have a better quality. And you can pretty much do that by going into the Google tools and turning on the size. So if you were to click tools and then choose size, you can specify large, and it'll pretty much give you larger size images that may have a better quality. So you can see some of the different clip art. So if I wanted to use this particular image, I can click on it. It does say that it's a PNG. That means the background may be transparent on that particular image. And if I hover over the image, I can see that this is a 1500 by 1134. So that's a good quality image. And then you can see it's kind of transparent. If you're using Silhouette Studio and you bring this image in, even though it's a PNG, it still may have a white background, which is fine if your matte background is going to be white. Okay, and then all I would do is pretty much right click on that image and say save image as, and save that image in my folder in order for me to start building the images that I'm going to add to my placemat. So if I was to save that, wherever you normally would save your files, and save that image there so that you can drag and drop into your particular program. Silhouette does have a drag and drop feature, so if you're in Silhouette, you can do the drag and drop instead of having to open, import the images in. So you can see that that image did save. And then what I'll do is basically go back to my Silhouette software. So what I normally do, because this represents my page, I normally would go ahead and draw out a rectangle the size of my so I'm going to go ahead and draw out a rectangle also that's going to be an 8.5 by 11. And in Silhouette on the left hand panel, I grab the rectangle tool, and then I just basically draw out my rectangle. Okay. And when I'm finished drawing out my rectangle, in order to stop drawing on the rectangle, I can click on my select tool in the my left hand panel. I click on the select tool, which is the arrow in the top left. And what I want to do is then resize this particular rectangle to also match my paper size that I'm going to print on. So what I'll do is make sure this rectangle is selected, and I can tell it's selected because it has these resizing arrows on the corners. And I would come over to my right hand panel, and there's like a image called the transform panel, and this is how you resize your object. So what I would do is click on that transform. It looks like 3 lines, and there's a diagonal line that would allow me to insert the size of my rectangle. So what I'll do here is go ahead and change this to 11 wide and the height 8.5 and hit apply. And when you hit apply, you see that that rectangle did adjust, and what I'll do is just drag it onto my panel. And here is where I'm going to start building. If you want to add a background, or if you want to add any type of color or pattern, inside of Silhouette, you do have the paint palette. By you clicking on that paint palette, you can basically say, okay, I want a red background, or I want a purple background. Whatever color you want your background to be, you can select and choose by using your paint palette. And if you want more of like a gradient, there's also an icon that would allow you to have gradients, which is more like a 2-tone color for the background. You also have the option to select that. So you can tell it fades from purple to white and has like a gradient effect to that. And then you also can use your pattern background. So if you already have a pattern saved, you can use that. So if you want to bring in polka dots, or if you have a Ninja Turtle background or any type of theme related background, you can definitely click on that to add that in there as well. So I do have a few saved in my Silhouette program. Even if you were using Microsoft Word or any other application, you still have the option to fill your background with some type of pattern or some type of gradient or a basic solid. So this is my pattern fill if I was going to use that. But for the one that I did create, I left the background white. And if you want to just make sure it is white, you can click on your palette with the colors and then just change that to be white, even though it is already going to show that it's white. Okay? And then I start to add my elements. I know in the middle, I wanted some type of coloring activity piece that the children can color on. So what I would do is go into my Windows Explorer folder or File Explorer folder, and then search for my Ninja Turtle folder. And this is where I pretty much have any of the graphics that I want to use. Remember, using your PNGs are pretty much best quality. So I already have an image. I click that image using the left side of the mouse, and I'm going to drag and drop into my Silhouette program. Okay, so you can see the Ninja Turtle image here. And what I'll do, once I get the image there, I can place it on my man. Okay. And one thing with the silhouette, it does give you the red border to show you what images would print. Anything that you want to print, you want to make sure it's within this black and this red border. Anything that's going to cut will be inside of the red border. Anything that you're going to print, you want to make sure it's within the black border inside of your application. If you wanted to resize this image, you can basically grab the resizing handle and then just kind of scale it up or down, just like you would do in any other application. And this would be my coloring page. In Silhouette, you are able to center your items. What you would do is basically select all of the objects, such as your page or that rectangle that I drew in the background, as well as my Ninja Turtle image. And then on the objects panel at the top of the screen, on the objects panel, what I would do is say align center. And what that's going to do is just make sure the Ninja Turtle image is aligned to the center of my page. Okay. And once I have that image, this is just something that they can color on. And then what I want to do is basically bring in certain activities. Maybe I want to bring in a maze or something where they have to do dot to dot. All of those are things that you can pretty much find using Google. So the image that I am going to bring in, it was a Ninja Turtle maze that I found still using a Google search. I just went to Google and I said Ninja Turtle maze. And I did a search. And if there's any Ninja Turtle mazes that's out there, which they did have several ones, you can basically use those to bring in as activities for your maze. I'm sorry, for your map. So what I did was use this maze right here in the middle, and I pretty much just brought it in and kind of cropped it and traced it. But this is the one that I pretty much found and used for my activity map. Okay. Depending on the theme that you're going to be using, if you said LOL maze, I'm sure there's going to be images or mazes that you can use. Sesame Street, anything that you can think of, they pretty much already have little activity things that you can bring in. So I went back to Silhouette, just say that I saved that maze. I go back to my folder and you can see right here, I do have the maze already saved in my images. So what I did was a drag and drop to bring that maze into my Silhouette software. I didn't do anything as far as changing the text or the wording that they had there, but you can do that if you wanted to change the graphics. Or if you wanted to say, make the Ninja Turtles find the pizza, you could have taken this image out and made it a pizza by just finding a clip art of a pizza and bringing it in and adding it here as well. So I pretty much just kept it the same, left their words, their images, and then I brought it in and added it to my map. Of course, it did come in kind of large, so what I did was resize it just by grabbing the resizing arrows and just kind of bringing it down to a smaller size. And then I just kind of put it in one of the corners of my map. I've seen different mats that have been created, and people may want to add some type of box or border, maybe dotted lines, something going around the outside of that particular object. And if you wanted to do that, in your left-hand panel or whatever application you're using, you can basically just take the shape tool and you can use rounded rectangle, you can use oval, you can use just a standard square, whatever shape you want to use, and then just basically add it around the outside of your image. So for me, I just did a rectangle. So I just basically grabbed the left panel, grabbed the rectangle tool, and pretty much just drew out a rectangle. And I wanted the background of the rectangle to be white. So I went over to my right-hand panel, the paint tool, and just made sure this rectangle was going to be white. I selected the white color, and then it turned white. I also wanted a black border around my rectangle. So what I did, over in Silhouette, there's also a tool for adjusting the borders or your lines. So there's a line style tool in the right hand panel. What I do is select the right hand tool for creating the outside border. And here you have the option to make the border thicker, and you may add color to that border if you choose to. So what I did was just did a solid line. They do have dash lines, and they vary in the thickness and the width of those. But I did just do a solid line, and I changed thickness. I think I changed it to maybe about 1 point, so it gives it a little thickness. And if you can see, it does add like a red. And this is if you were going to cut it. That's just showing red, because anything in Silhouette that's going to be cut does come in with a red line showing you that's what will be cut. So what I'll do now is just click on the line color and change it black. If I wanted to make it green to match the Ninja Turtle theme, I can make it green or any other color that I would like for it to be. So I can leave it green. And if you notice, if I grab this rectangle, left click, hold it down, I can drag it. If you notice, when I drag it over, it is on top of my maze. So what I would want to do is right click on that rectangle and say send to back. And then you will see that the maze is going to appear on top of your rectangle now. Okay. And then what I would do once I bring that to the back or send that to the back, I can then go in and adjust the actual maze to kind of fit inside of that rectangle. And then if I wanted to center that particular maze inside that rectangle, the same way I did the Ninja Turtles, basically what I would do is select that just by left clicking, kind of holding down the mouse and dragging it around that area, and say object, align to the center. Oh, not that one, that's because I got the background. I forgot. I did have that rectangle in the back. So it is, let me grab them. So what I want to do is grab the words and the maze in the box and say object, align center. And then you can see that it then adjusted to align to the center of that rectangle that I drew out. And I hope you ladies are following along. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast. Are there any questions, concerns? Everybody good? Okay. So again, all I did was took the Ninja Turtle maze, added it inside the rectangle to give it some type of border. And then I'll continue building my activities. I think I also found a nice little dot-to-dot coloring page that I brought in. So I'll go back to my images, grab the dot-to-dot image that I found. And what I'll do is just adjust that. I didn't change anything with this. This was another image that I found on Google. I just Googled Ninja Turtle dot-to-dot and found this particular activity page. And then what I would do is bring it in, add it to my palette. Okay. So now I have the dot-to-dot activities. I have a little maze here that they can do. And then I may also add another activity, maybe in the bottom left-hand corner. Let me grab another activity. And I'm just going back to my folder where I have all my activities saved. I did Google another activity for Ninja Turtles, and it came up with this counting the pizzas for Michelangelo. So basically what I did was just kind of cropped it. I brought it in silhouette and cropped the box. So that's why my edges are a little jagged. But what I do is add a rectangle around this so that you can't really see those jagged edges from this activity page, because I think it was a double image. It had two of these side by side, and I just cropped one of them out. So what I do here is just grab another rectangle. And when I grab this rectangle, I do want the background again to be white. So I make sure I select the rectangle, go back over to the paint palette in my right-hand toolbar, and just choose white. And then again, if I were to drag this on top of that activity page, the rectangle is in the front. So what I'll do is right-click, send to back. And then I'll adjust that rectangle out so that you can't really see those jagged edges where I crop that image. And again, I can select both of those, the rectangle and the activity sheet. Go back to Object, Align to Center, and then that centers that in that rectangle. And then what I want to do is also add a border around this rectangle. So what I'll do is make sure it is selected, the rectangle is selected, and then I can come and choose either black, not the rectangle itself. Again, I forgot to change it to the line. So what I have to do in my right-hand panel is make sure I choose the line icon. What I did the first time when I clicked and it turned the border, the background black, that was because I said change the actual rectangle to black instead of changing the line. So once I come to my right-hand panel, I choose line style and I choose the color, which I'm going to do black. And then I also choose the thickness, and I always use maybe like a 1 point. You can make it as thick as you want to. So you see, the more I increase, the thicker that outline becomes around that activity sheet. But I normally do it about 1 point, which is a good thickness for a little border. And then what I'll do is grab both of those. I can group it together by right-clicking on that left, that activity. I can right-click and say group. And what that does is allow me to move both of these items together. And I don't have to worry about it becoming detached. And then with my image, if you all notice the coloring page that I have in the center, it's kind of behind this rectangle or this activity page. So what I do is right click on that Ninja Turtle image and say bring to front. And you can see now it brings the front of his foot in front of that box a little bit. So if you had an image there that you kind of want to be more to the forefront, you just right click, bring to front or send to back. So I have another space over here on the right hand side, and I think what I did here, I just added another image for them to basically color on. So again, I go to my File Explorer and I find whatever image I would like to bring in there. So I'll go in and drag and drop an image that the individuals can color. Now the Ninja Turtle, when I dragged it in, it did come in pretty small. Again, you can use your right hand or left hand resizing handles and drag it out to make it larger if you need to. And what I'll do is just kind of drag and drop and add that into that open space and just make sure it does fit in that space there. And if I wanted to add a rectangle around it, again, I can go over to my tools on the left-hand side, grab a rectangle, and just kind of adjust the size. And again, I'll color it white, give it a white background. And then I'll also change the thickness of the border, maybe 1 point border. And then also my line, change the color to black. And then what I'll do is basically grab my selecting tool and drag that over. And if you notice, it is on top of the image that I added there. So what I'll do is just right click, send to back. And then I'll adjust the image accordingly. So there's my other image. So those are pretty much the activities that I've added in. If I wanted to change anything, I can always click on it, delete it out, or bring something else in. Another thing that I would like to do is maybe add an overall border to the placemat. And what I do, again, using the rectangle tool, but instead of it being a solid rectangle, what I'm going to do is change this rectangle to maybe dashed or dotted lines. So once I draw the rectangle out and I have the line style, what I'll do is change the type of style that I'm using for this particular image. So instead of it being solid, I'm going to do a dotted line. And you can see that it did change to a dotted dash line. And I'm going to also change the color to green because I don't want to use a lot of color. Now, if you're going to be using full color images, you can still bring in whatever images and use full color. I try not to use a lot of colors on the placemats unless the client basically requests full color. So what I do is just kind of grab this dotted line, and I'm just going to make sure I adjust it. And you can do this by actually going in and saying, make it an 8.5 by 11, or you can just kind of stretch it out and eyeball it. And just make sure it goes around all of your images. So I do have a dotted line in there. And if you think you want it thicker, remember you can always change the point size. So if I want to make it a little bit thicker or more defined, I can just increase the point size. And you can see that it would give it a more defined dotted line around the placemat itself. Another thing that I did with this, I did go to defont.com. Defont.com is a site that you can go to, download free fonts. I just did a search for the Ninja Turtle font, and I brought that in. I think I created it in Photoshop using the Ninja Turtle font. So what I did was just basically type out the font. Now you can use whatever fonts you have installed inside of your Silhouette or Microsoft Word, Photoshop, whatever fonts you have, you can use those. All you would do is basically type out whatever you wanted it to say. So Hayden's 5th birthday. And then what you can do is change the color, change the style. When you type out your text in Silhouette, once you type it, you have to click off of it to deselect it, and then click to make sure you select it. And then over in the right hand panel, there's a capital A. This is for your fonts or your text. Whatever fonts you've installed in your Silhouette application, they will be listed here, and you can change the font. And if you click on it, it's going to automatically change the font to whatever style you are basically looking for. So I have a few installed that I can pretty much use. But like I said, I think I had the Ninja Turtle fonts installed, and I was using Photoshop when I created that. So I created his Cadence 5th birthday in Photoshop. and just kind of brought it into Silhouette because for some reason the Ninja Turtle font didn't install in my Silhouette program, or maybe I just needed to restart it at that time. So what I did was just create it using Photoshop. But any of the text that you have, oh, here it is. Okay, so it's now, maybe because my computer restarted it, it now shows the Ninja Turtle font. So notice when I use the Ninja Turtle font, it is a big gap in between the top line and the bottom line. So what I can do, hey, LaShonda, thank you for joining. Yes, it should still be up, LaShonda, unless something happens and I need to change some settings, but I don't think I'll be deleting it. It'll be up so you all can kind of watch it, and then feel free to send me a message if you get lost or need help, or if you're using another application. That's for any of you ladies who are joining me tonight watching the live. So I have my font, and because there's a lot of space in between the top line and the bottom line, what I'll do is come over in the text features, and you have line spacing, which will take away the spacing in between the top line, the bottom line, and then you have your character spacing if you want to make the letters closer together, farther apart, etc. So what I'm going to do is change the line spacing. So what I'll do is just kind of decrease, and I kind of just have to eyeball it to see once the spacing is. And if you're looking, you can see that there is a change now. The gap between top line, bottom line is not so far apart. Let's try one more time. 65, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so 65 looks pretty good. What I'll also do is just kind of center this so that it is aligned better. There is a tool here that says justify to the center. And then you can see where it brought Caden's 5th birthday and put birthday kind of in between the text. So what I also do is change the color. If you brought in color images and you're trying to match the color of, let's say the Ninja Turtle here in the middle was green, and I wanted to make sure the greens match, when you go into your color palette, there is an eyedropper that would allow you to pick up a color and drop it to match the color scheme that you already have going on. So what I did, I think I just had viewed this green, and you can see that it did turn the Ninja Turtle text green. And then what I did was also added like a black border around the actual line. So I go back to the line tool, change the line color to black, and then I'm going to change the thickness of that border. So I'm going to make it a little thicker to give it more of a defined look so that it kind of matches that Ninja Turtle logo, because it has like a thick border around that. So I'm going to just make it a little thicker. Okay. And there it is. And then what I'll do once I have it the way I want it, I'll basically bring it in and kind of size it to fit that space. So whatever space you're trying to add your text. And you can, turn the text. There's a green little rotating tool if you want to change the text, turn it kind of sideways. You can do that. And also over in the right-hand palette of your Silhouette Studio, there's also that same object where the same place we went in and resized some of the items, the 3 lines, that would also give you your rotating tool. So if you wanted it to be turned a different way, upside down, left to right, etc., you do have the option to do that. And then I basically would just add that text wherever I wanted to go on the placemat. Now, that's one side of the placemat. If you were going to do a double-sided placemat, meaning, let's say the other side of the placemat, you wanted to be just a solid background, and you wanted to just say Caden's 5th birthday, you do have the option to do that. You pretty much do it the same way. You start off with your blank 8.5 by 11, add your background image, and then go from there. So this is pretty much done. This is a standard placemat. It's not difficult at all. It's pretty much going to Google, finding images, and then bringing them in and putting them on your mat to make it appealing to the eye. However you want it to be designed, you just bring those images in, place them on your mat accordingly. Okay, so that's pretty much the basics of designing a placemat with a few activities. You can go as detailed or as simple as possible. So if I was finished with this, I would basically come up to File, save this to my library so that when I'm ready to print it, I can print it out and it's done. Okay? So I have several images and items that I've already saved to my library, and I can just add this in there. So I'll just save that Ninja Turtle. Hit OK. Wait a minute. Let's see. Ninja Turtle mat. Something else. It said I already had a file called that. So I'll just change the name to something else. Save it. Anytime I open up my Silhouette Studio, that placemat is always going to be in there. Okay. And like I said, if you wanted to just do the back side and want to have a full color background, you're welcome, Miss Wright. Thank you for joining. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit. If you're going to be using Cricut or any other applications, the method of designing is pretty much the same. People charge an arm and a leg to tell you how to do this. It's really not that complicated to go in and just kind of play around with it. Okay. If I wanted to just design like a back side or a front side of the placemat, for instance, I can drop in a pattern for the background like I showed you earlier. So let's say I just want to bring in a pattern. Let's see, I think I got some Hello Kitty ones or something saved, or LOL doll. So I basically just draw out a rectangle like I did before, 8.5 by 11, and then the pattern is already set to it because I clicked that I'm going to be using a pattern. So this would be if you were going to create like a back side. So some placemats, you flip it over, it has the activities on one side, and then it has a back side or a front side, whichever way you look at it. And then again, you can add your text. Ayla's 5th birthday. And of course, because I didn't turn off the pattern, the text did come in with that same pattern, but I can change it to a solid just by going back over to the paint palette. Let's say I want that text to be black. And there it is. I can change the font the same way I did on the other side of the mat. And just kind of drag that in. You would want to make sure if you have a patterned background, you want to make sure the font that you choose does coordinate with your background so that the clients can still see those activities, or that text. And you can use whatever font you choose to. And you can just add that onto your back in placement.